Hey everybody, Tony D with a hot take on who else but Joe Biden. Joe Biden. We have to talk about Joe Biden again. And before I start, let me remind you all that at 3 o'clock today, I will be doing a live stream with CB on CB's channel, link in the description. And we're going to be talking about how the comic book industry is falling to pieces, mostly. But we'll talk about anything. So, stop by the live stream, ask us a question, and all that good stuff. So Joe Biden, I don't know if you've seen any of the clips of Joe Biden trying to have a talk. And I emphasize that. He's trying to talk at this point. He's not succeeding in talking, but he's trying. This guy can't be president. Now, H.A. Goodman, who's a pundit I watch, has insisted for the last 3-4 years that Hillary Clinton's going to be the nominee. And he's even going so far as to say that Biden's sunsetting is an act, which is possible, I suppose. He's an amazing actor if it's true. It may be a combination of the two. He's kind of just sort of sunsetting, but he's also kind of just in it, and he was going to throw the thing anyway. I don't think there's a whole lot of evidence to support that, but there is some. Because if you'll notice, on the debates, he's fairly lucid. Now, a couple of times in the debates, he made gaffes, but they're not like the gaffes he's made outside of the debates. Outside of the debates, he's forgotten people's names. He's gotten very confused. Inside the debates, Julian Castro called them out one time, but I don't think it was the kind of gaffe. He didn't really make that gaffe. It was more like, oh, you don't know where you are, Joe, kind of thing. It was more on Castro sort of framing it than it was Biden actually making a mistake. So I think there is some evidence to suggest maybe he's exaggerating his sunsetting. Maybe he is being more confused than he actually is. Or, it could be because sunsetting, the concept behind that is when someone's getting old and they're reaching the end of their life, they kind of fall to pieces in the final years. And I've seen that happen to a few old people. They just go right down the hill, and it could be very quickly. It could be within a few months they just fall to pieces. Now, some people, they kind of decline and then they hang on. I have a current relative who's in that situation, unfortunately. But it's hard to judge. It could go either way. But it is possible that Biden's been at this so long, he's pretty good at acting. And he knows he can't win, so he's going through this for Hillary to get Hillary in the office and, be the historical guy who put a woman in the White House. I kind of think this is pretty authentic. That's just my feeling. I mean, he got really confused in the most recent interview, like really confused. Like he didn't know what, and I've done it too, but not like Biden. Like I have the ability to realize I've done that and kind of correct myself, but Biden is like off the charts. I mean, he is looking very frail, very old, and not really dealing. And he's already sort of had his makeover, right? I think he's 77. He already had his teeth capped and got hair plugs and and even just as recently as the Obama administration, he was pretty good. I mean, he was okay. This was, he was still in his 60s. He was pretty spry. The guy apparently exercises, he swims. He was an athlete all his life. So you could understand how, he'd hold up pretty good. But, it unfortunately hits everyone eventually. And when the decline comes, it just, for some it's the mental, and for others it's the physical, and for some it's both. I mean, we don't know physically how he's doing either. There could be all sorts of problems behind the scenes that we don't know about. The other thing is, I was, as you know, an early supporter of Biden back in the, decades ago when I was a Democrat and he ran for president the first time. And I thought, hey, yeah, he'd be a good president. He seems like a nice guy. They say he rides the train to work, to Washington. Seems like an okay guy. Now, that was back then when I didn't really follow politics all that closely. I was a Democrat, and I just kind of went with the herd and said, "Oh yeah, Democrats are for the working man," and to some extent back in the 70s and 80s they were. But that's not the case. Biden's been VP. I mean, he's been the big man, and he's done a bunch of stuff about gun control, while at the same time he's a bit of a war hawk. And he was the guy who came up with the great plan of splitting up Iraq into separate countries, which really, when you get right down to it, that was Iraq's problem to begin with. When the Brits came in there and say, "Hey, this is now Iraq. It's a country," So going in there and say, "No, wait, it's 6 countries," I don't think is really going to help the situation more. You have to let the locals figure all that out. But then there's the other issue with Biden is, he, even if he was at his peak, there's no way he's going to beat Trump in a debate. I mean, Hillary Clinton was a slippery customer to begin with, although she was incredibly unlikable. That had nothing to do with her debate skills, which were almost non-existent against Trump, because Trump is not willing to stay within the borders of reasonable discussion amongst politicians. He did it to the Republicans during the primaries, and he did it to Hillary during the debate. He's not going to stop doing that against Biden. And Biden is a very old school politician. He's going to go outside the box, and I can tell you Biden's reaction already. It's going to be, wait. Because he's going to be trying to pull Trump back into the box, and Trump isn't going to do it. He's going to be walking around the stage, breaking all the rules, because that's Trump's whole deal. And, Biden is not a guy, even when he was younger, to be able to pivot on that. You could argue that Barack Obama could have, because he was younger and he was way more savvy, but not Joe Biden. No way. The whole reason Biden was the elder statesman who was the VP was because Obama was young. They wanted him to pick someone who was older so they could say, well, see, yeah, Obama's very young, but his VP is very seasoned, and, they have discussions. So you're not going to get the kind of flexibility you need against a Donald Trump. Now, like Pete Buttigieg, he might have had a shot at it simply because he was young, and simply at some point he'd say, listen, I'm going to try something a little different. That's not going to happen with Biden. Biden is already coasting on automatic pilot. That's not going to work against Donald Trump. It didn't work in the regular debates against the other Democrats. He got schooled by them, and yet he still won. Why? Well, because the Democratic establishment wants him. He was the VP, and he is, sadly, the best chance they have under the current group. Now, H.A. Goodman says, no, it's going to be Hillary Clinton. I still say it could be a possibility. Hillary could come in there. It could be just like H.A. says. During the convention, they nominate her because she just waltzes in and says, listen, Joe is not ready. He's clearly befuddled. And Joe goes right along with it and says, yes, I'm having a lot of health problems. I didn't want to say, but this is really too much for me. And I think Hillary would be the best pick. Or he picks her as VP, vowing to step down after 1 year, which, I don't think any of those strategies would go over well with the base at all. They would lose so many followers. It would just destroy what little is left of the credibility of the Democratic Party. Now, there would be plenty of people who would line up and go, yes, simply because they're desperate for a win at this point. But, what are they going to do against Biden versus Trump? I mean, look, Biden's been Me Too'd big time. And that, at the very least, what you had to acknowledge about that, Biden fans, is that will at least negate any of those problems that Trump had. And that was kind of the only problem he really had. The whole Trump caught on tape saying something vulgar, was weak sauce to begin with. Now you add to the fact that Biden, and there's literally hours of footage of Biden acting inappropriately with little girls, and only little girls. There's no way he can win on this issue. If Trump, in fact, is a total winner on this. Trump, in fact, can call him Creepy Joe or Sleepy Joe, and Biden would be stupid to step into that arena. He'd get kablamoed, just absolutely kablamoed. I mean, what is he going to say? What is he going to say? Well, you say rude things to women. And Trump will be like, well, you touch little girls in appropriate places. It's all on tape, Joe. You know, I mean, his grandfather act isn't going to work in a debate. Not against a guy his age, essentially. I mean, Trump's younger. I think Trump's 73 and Joe's 77. And on top of the fact that Joe has always, even back when he was younger, you know, he gets befuddled. He gaffes. He is the gaff master. And, you know, on top of everything else, the pressure of debating Donald Trump, I mean, Donald Trump is on point. You know, whatever you think of Trump, he is on point. He is debating the reporters in the press conference, and he beat them. He beat them because he goes in ready. He has no life. Donald Trump has no life. His life consists of making money and golfing, and that's it. And I don't even think he really likes golf. Quite frankly, I think the only reason he golfs is because he's expected to. This is a guy who 24/7 works. And he wants to win. He's going to beat Joe in the debate. He's going to be ready for every possibility. Do you think Joe's going to be ready for every possibility? No way. No way. If Trump goes after him on Burisma, what's he going to say? How is he going to defend getting his son a job? How is he going to defend that? How, you know, oh, well, you had a call with the Ukrainian. He was president of the United States. He was talking to the president of the Ukraine. How is that even compare to getting your son a job, which he's totally unqualified for and doesn't speak the language and never went there? There's no good explanation. There's no good spin on that. There's none. You could try it all day. You could say, well, he's a lawyer and he really represented them in the United States. No one's going to buy that baloney, malarkey, if you will. So Biden's going to lose. I think the Democrats know that. And so either they're planning on propping up Hillary or someone else in his stead and just losing gracefully. Now, the other thing, too, is his VP pick, which they're talking about. Some people say Kamala Harris, a disaster. Other people say Elizabeth Warren, that's why she held out. Another kind of disaster, probably less of a disaster than Harris. I think Harris is just so unlikable and horrible. But Warren's got kind of the same problem. She's not much more likable. She's at least kind of likable to some. And maybe she could rebuild her image once she's nominated. But you gotta, you know, if Biden is going to run for president and she's going to be the VP pick, you're basically running Warren against Trump. And then she doesn't have to debate him. And do you think Trump is going to just sit there idly by and not point that out? Well, I'm really not running against Biden. I should be debating Warren. Yeah, and that ain't going to happen because they would rather sacrifice Biden, let him get all chewed up, and then have Warren say stuff about that debate was unfair. Donald Trump, if I was debating Trump, but I can't, I'm the VP pick. And then she debates Pence. And hey, you know, we haven't really seen Pence do a lot, but he's done okay on this task force. He's more of a traditional politician, very stoic. I don't know how he would do in a debate against her. I think he would do okay. I don't think he would crush her like Trump would, but I think he would probably win by a slight margin, simply because, you know, Warren was all bug-eyed and emotional, and Pence would just no, that's not true. So, you know, there's no good choices for the Democrats, and it's kind of driving them insane. This is the whole reason we need more political parties in this country. This is the whole reason a lot of the Democrats who are on the extreme left should really be in the Green Party or some other party, because it would split the Democratic Party up in various sub-parties. which would eventually draw away some of the moderates, as they moderated their message somewhat. I think the problem with the Greens is right now, there's little Joan, the Greens and to some extent my party, the Libertarian Party, they haven't moderated the message enough to get normal people on board. The Libertarians are the most successful in that because we had Gary Johnson. We understood, we got to nominate somebody who could actually win this thing, who actually has experience and actually is, even though he's not a perfect libertarian, as many, many people point out, the guy at least had plenty of government experience and could navigate things and represent us, and did represent us fairly well, I would say. Now, there's plenty of libertarians who argue, no way, Gary was a sellout, and blah, blah, blah. Look, he did well. He got 1 million votes. That was more than any libertarian candidate. You move the needle up. That's what the Green Party has to do. That's what all these little sub-parties have to do. And there has to be a real threat that for the Democrats, that this base will flee to those little parties so they address real issues. They're not. They're not. The only guy in the room who's the adult is, unfortunately, Trump. And he's the most moderate, and he is being a moderate guy. He says, we got a big tent, come over here. We're going to take care of the working man. We're going to do blah, 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 blah. And you could say, well, that's all BS. But at least he's saying it. Biden's not saying that. Biden raised his hand when he said, oh, illegal aliens? Sure, we'll cover their health care, no problem. How are you going to do that, Joe? You're not really going to be able to explain that in a lot of your hardcore lefty positions that you just said in order to get the left in. And those guys aren't going to vote for you anyway. So Biden is going to be a mess.